Elevate your life. Elevate your business. Welcome to the Elevated Results Podcast.
Thank you for sharing your energy and time with us because our energy is our most expensive currency. You made a decision today, and that was to spend your energy on elevating your life and elevating your business. So you're co-elevating with us. And I'm super grateful for our special guest today. It's her second time with us, but that's because she has such a magnetic energy and I just love being in her presence. So welcome Taylor Schneider with Awaken Medium.
Thanks, Tennille. It's such an honor to be here. And you know what? I was just thinking as you were introducing me, like we started to get to know each other years ago. And I remember you were always that spiritual being. Like you were always tapped in. And like just what you're doing now, I feel like has been in the making for like a decade of time in such a powerful way that right now you stepping into, your light is I like with this awakening happening, like there's no better time. There's no better time for Tennille to show up and sparkle your little light energy everywhere.
Well, thank you.
Not little, big light energy.
But that's where I do believe every person has a purpose and we all have a path.
Yeah.
So the universe is always guiding us. And sometimes we choose not to listen. We tune out our intuition. And the same lesson keeps happening over and over again until you learn the lesson that you're meant to and you become guided to the path that you're meant. So every single one of you listening, you all have a purpose. You all have a path. It's just about tuning into that. And so when I look at Taylor, you have inspired me and helped me to almost ignite that inner light. And you've helped so many people in the community. But you started at the age of 17 when you connected to that spiritual energy, that spiritual force to turn this into your business. So before that, and I mean, I just want to remind everybody listening too that do not compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 22. So when we look at Taylor, I don't want to call you out on your age because I don't know how old you are. I know you're younger than me.
I always forget my age.
But you look at how long you've been on this spiritual journey, this awakening. Yes. So do not compare yourself. Be proud of yourself for even opening up the book of connecting. So for the listeners, if this is your first time ever even thinking about doing something where you're connecting to spirituality, be proud of yourself. And remember, you don't compare yourself to anybody than who you were yesterday.
Absolutely.
Just be better than you were yesterday.
Well, and Tennille, I do think that like when we work and we start to tap into our spiritual essence and the higher powers, higher realms, we're often being guided in an advanced state because the spiritual realms actually work tenfold in front of us, basically. So when we're channeling and receiving the guidance, what we are to do sometimes, comes forward to prepare us where we don't, this information doesn't sit right away, but it's like, this is the direction we're heading in. And we don't understand all the puzzle pieces, but we're going to lean in and kind of surrender to the unfoldment of it. And so when I think back to my path, like where I started, I don't think I would have even got started if I had known where I would be now from that spiritual development, right? Because if we knew all the pieces when we got started, would we ever start? Not saying that it's been a beautiful experience, but there's been so much expansion and growth with it that had I known then, I think I would have really been afraid of my potential and power that I could step into.
Well, and I think it's inspiring, but like you said, you want to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because complexity is an execution killer. So if you would have thought everything you had to do to get to where you are today and looking at how powerful you are, what a spiritual business you've been able to create, if you overcomplicated it, then you probably wouldn't have started. So
yes,
looking where you are now, it is a reminder, one step at a time, and it's progress. But when we look at the energy that's around it, we look at you being able to, at the age of 17, tap into your inner power, tap into the energy of the universe. Tell everyone what your experience was of how you even got there.
Yeah. Well, I think suffering led me to light for sure, led me into my power because, as a child, it was just years of illness actually is how it started. Just really sick, whether it was throat infections, belly aches, back pain. And actually at 16, I was in a car accident, which is what they say often leads. It's kind of a near-death experience, often leads you into your opening and awakening. And it's often usually not by choice. It's usually like my body is falling apart or my life is falling apart, and I need to start to bring the pieces back together. And that usually happens through your own spiritual awakening in some shape or form. Now, leading me to that crash point, I would say, just the consumption of energy. I was so overly consumed by everybody's emotions, energy, how everyone was feeling, the suffering in the collective, that I was taking it on as for myself, to myself, thinking it was all my own energy. And so that really put me in the fight or flight and the suffering, where alcohol was definitely a huge thing, partying, not to the point of just having fun, but to the point of like blacked out, on the floor, sick, not well. And then I would wake up and my mom would go like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I'd do it again and again. And it was just my way of kind of escapism, escaping this reality, because it just felt like too much for me. And I mean, now in my life, like that's not even a thing. It's not even a thing I would consider anymore, because I'm so much more aware of my energy and the potency of it, that I would never even want to waste my energy in that kind of capacity anymore, right? So I think that through expansion and stepping deeper into your gifts and abilities, you really start to recognize that your energy is your greatest frequency, and like how you want to use it and what you put it towards is really going to give you the end results you're looking for. And it's like, if we can look at energy as our greatest currency, like look at all the things we could do with our energy field, right?
Well, and it is, like you said, it's the most expensive currency, and it's something that a lot of people aren't mindful. So if you notice at the beginning of this episode, we were saging, we were grounding. There's different rituals of how you can cleanse your energy, and energy can be used for the higher good. It can be used for something that isn't for the highest good, but it's about deciphering what that alignment is. And so even you telling the story of how you stepped from your pain into your power, you used it as an opportunity to have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And that's where it is a reminder that where there's light, there's always darkness. And often things are darker before you find the light.
Yeah.
So no matter where you are at, if you're listening and you're in the darkness right now, remember that every single day the sun will rise. The moon has its purpose. The sun has its purpose. It's all about duality, about bringing everything into balance. So Taylor, I know you're very connected with astrology and spirituality. So when we look at the world around us and the change in consciousness, the age of Aquarian, and I know we touched a little bit about that on our last episode, tell the listeners a little bit more about the energetic shifts that the world as we currently know it are changing and going through.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this can be so complex to cover, but what we have to understand is like energy is always flowing, right? Energy is always moving. And I think that a lot of us have become victimized by energy over years, not recognizing that the energy is moving for us and within us to help us shift from old to new, right? And so when we can find flow with energy, we can realize that sometimes flowing through energy means flowing through the stagnant emotions, flowing through the resistance, flowing through the old belief systems, the old human conditioning, right? Like, I think what we have to recognize is energy is always working for us, and we have to learn how to lean into it instead of becoming fearful or victimized by it, right? And I think when I work with people in spiritual practices, a lot of people become victimized by it, and they think it's all happening to them instead of for them. And they're wondering why they're feeling the way they're feeling and why their sensitivities are driving them insane and why, you know what I mean? And they're not really leaning into the flow of the energy. How can I use this to elevate me, right? Like, why am I being called to dive deeper into my roots right now? Maybe it's because you need to go into your roots to unlock your potential so you can actually become expansive in your life and reality, right? And so much of the work happens internally. I mean, we always want to do the external work because that's really what society has taught us, is it's all external based. You know, you get the education, you show up, you be the person you want. But spirituality is all about that inner work and taking the time to really move through the dimensions to free yourself, to unlock your potential, to recognize your power. And all of this is available within us. But a lot of the times as humans, we have not been trained well enough to get silent to unlock this potential that's hidden inside of us, right? And I think that's what's happening in this collective energy is we've looked outside of ourselves for far too long. And now we're starting to recognize that this potential is found within me. And I need to find all the things, all the reasons that have held me stagnant or back from stepping into my power, right? So I think a lot of spirituality is unpacking what is no longer of service, so you can remember who you really are and start to bring forward that power in your life, which can look like moving through the darkness to discover your light.
Well, and it is like, because there's always light, there's always darkness. And so if we keep avoiding it, we keep choosing not to look at it, it's still going to be there. But if we
Absolutely.
want to shed light on it, we want to convert that darkness into light, it comes down to us really stepping into that power, which ultimately is all within us. So everything we need is within us. It's just about tuning inwards.
Yeah.
And when we really start to look at the age of the Aquarian, is I've noticed also that there's a lot of changes in society as we know it. So there's almost an awakening happening where people are wanting and having that inner calling to tap inwards, to really lean into spirituality. So what are you noticing in the consciousness and what's
Yeah.
changing in the world as we know
Well,
it?
like the planet Pluto, which is a very life, death, rebirth planet, has just moved from Capricorn, that was there for the last 20 years. That's created all of these systems and a lot of corruption and brought a lot of darkness to the table. And it's now just shifted this year. It's shifted a couple times and then went back in retrograde. And now it's stationed into Aquarius and will be there for the next 20-ish years. And this is the time of Aquarius. This is the time where we're stepping into the new age, and frequency and vibration and energy and healing and doing the spiritual work. This is the new age stuff. And I've even noticed in the last 10 years, I mean, when I started what I did, it was very hush hush. And now I'm able to have a podcast, to sit in conversation with other individuals who are willing to share their light and speak of who they are at the depth of their soul, right? I can have a subscription, I can have my website, I can have all this stuff that when I began, it all had to be in hiding because you were still shunned for, witchcraft or something in
I was
that
just gonna
form.
say a witch.
Yeah, I was totally a witch 10 years ago. And now it's like, it's very accepted. It's very accepted, the spiritual realms energy. You can actually walk around and say, oh, the energy feels weird. And people are like, yep, I feel it too. There's just such a greater awareness happening. And it's not because the consciousness has gotten darker. It's just that we've started to recognize the darkness, and we're starting to find duality and balance by coming forward into our light, by reclaiming and stepping into our power that has always been available to us as well. But we forgot about it because sometimes life gets too dense, too heavy. We get too connected in the darker side of things that we forget to remember who we are at the depth of our own souls.
Well, and it's true, right? Like, I mean, obviously we all go through that, but even what you were saying about now, it's acceptable to be spiritual. It's almost something that you can have conversations about.
Yes.
When I first started on my spiritual awakening, I was a realtor, so I'm a businesswoman on one side and I'm a yogi on the other side. And I just felt like I almost had to hide a part of it. I thought if I wanted to be a successful businesswoman, I couldn't be a spiritual yogi. I couldn't do all these spiritual rituals. Now look at us. I'm saging, I'm showing you my rituals, and I feel inspired to do so. And I know that it's step into your light. Be who you are, be authentic. And when you start to shine your light, you're going to inspire others to do the same. And that's something they always say at the end of a yoga practice is, my light honors that same light within each of you. Yeah. So it's your responsibility to bring your inner light out. No one else is going to be you, and that is your power. So step into your light, ignite it. And when we do that, it's almost like a flame. So when one person ignites their inner light, it spreads to everyone else around them. So that's the power of co-elevation, is you do have power. So a lot of people do victimize, thinking, I can't do anything. I can't change the circumstances of the world. I even look at a lot of the darkness that's been happening in Hollywood, which I've always just tried to avoid because I do feel like it negatively drains me and it puts me more almost in an ego base versus higher self. Yeah. But I look at it and I think I can't keep avoiding what's going on. There's darkness in society. There's darkness in our own lives. Mm-hmm. There's darkness in business. It's in balance. But choosing to look at what's going on, and it's really hard when you start to see what's even going on with P. Diddy and all this darkness in the world that's driven by ego, greed, power, significance, and just to think that other people could actually be on that level is it's hard to accept. But then you can look at it and think, how can I shine my light on it? How can I be better so that I can inspire other people to do the same?
Well, I think that's what it is, right? It's like the mirroring, like, okay, so you feel uncomfortable from this, or you feel fear-based from this, or however you feel. I think it's really a deeper invitation into, well, what part of myself can be healed and revealed, from this form, from this invitation, so that I can show up even deeper in my light with even more knowledge and awareness than what's taking place in this current collective energy, right?
Well, exactly. And can be the catalyst for that energy shift. So it's so sad to see what happens to some of to the people and seeing what's coming out. But at the same time, it's stand in your own power, stand in your own light. Like you said, look at how can we convert that into light. And it all starts with us by being aware of our energy, who you surround yourself, what you want to focus that energy on. And again, it's just being better than you were yesterday, leaning into that energy.
Well, and I think when we talk about new age, and like you said, you were the realtor, the businesswoman, and then you were also this other side of you was the spiritual being. But it's the combination of combining it, of spiritual integration, where we can be this all in one. You know what I mean? And I think that's how we start to blaze the trail and show society to follow along, and that this is empowering and this is shifting, and that you can be a very successful business owner and tapped into your spirituality, and these two can coincide, right? I know like the programs I host is a lot of just business people who are ready to tap into their spiritual potency to help them elevate in their life. It's not a lot of people that are going, you know what, I want to take this so I can just be a medium like you, Taylor. It's they want to take it and make it into their own practice, their own authentic calling, and show up deeper into their power and, be successful from it as well.
And I know I loved when I did your trainings, but it really opened my eyes. There was a few business owners in Lloyd that I didn't even think were spiritual.
Yeah.
And when I saw them there, I was like, what? But it's so beautiful to see how they've integrated into their own life and how they've been able to help other people with it. And it really is. When I look at some of the most successful business owners, now I look at it in a different light. Yeah. They are spiritual. Like my mentor, Tony Robbins, his quote is, business is a spiritual game.
Yeah.
And that has inspired me to see that those two parts of myself that I thought had to be separate, that is not where my power lies.
No.
The reasons why I was successful in business was because I tapped into my intuition and my spirituality. Yeah. So it's like once you can step into that, you can harness that energy of the universe, the universal abundance. And you
Absolutely.
And it doesn't, when I'm saying this too, if you're listening, it's not like any huge shifts.
No.
It comes down to meditation. Doing something with even Taylor would be awesome, but it's just listening to that inner guide.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is the more tapped in we are, the more aware we become, the more expansive we are, so that whatever is happening around us or to us, we're really able to see, as an invitation into our growth. We're not getting wrapped up in the fear-based consciousness of why and the victim mentality that we just spoke of, right? It's more like, how can this be expansive? What's the opportunity that comes within this? And I think that just shifts our energy right from the victim to the, abundant vibration that, anything is possible here. So what do I want to create and how can I tap into that?
Well, we are all the creators of our life and business, but we can co-create with the universe too, and utilizing that energy. And so what are a few different energy practices, rituals that people could be doing to really harness the power of their energy and step into alignment?
Well, the thing is like we live in the 3D consciousness, right? And I mean, we're talking about upgrading to the 5D consciousness, but we're not able to do that if we're not tapping into any dimensions beyond this physical reality. And what we need to recognize is these realities are all within us and all around us, basically. And we have the potential to tap into it. It's basically like a radio dial and going, what do I want to hone in on? What do I want to call forward? So right outside of the 3D consciousness that we find ourselves physically living in is the 4D, which is the spiritual realm. Then the 5D, which is like our angelic realm, our higher self, our higher power. Then the 6D is the laws of the universe, where everything coincides and what we do comes forward, like attracts like, so on and so forth. And then the 7D realm is really source energy, universal forces. So we have, the ability, the capacity to tap into any of these dimensions, but we don't usually recognize that we can expand our energy beyond the life force we're currently experiencing, right? And so I think we get caught up in this fear-based consciousness, and all we really need to do is invite forward a higher energy, our higher power. Even going, what would my higher self do, instantly brings in from that 5D dimension outside of the fear-based consciousness and in from unconditional love, so that we can be guided through the space of love instead of fear, right? If we call in source energy or the universe, that's calling in from an even greater capacity to now guide me. I'm inviting this energy forward to move me or direct me or show me which way I must go, right? And so just by tapping into that energy and calling it forward, even breathing, I'm really showing you that the dimensions are all around us. And the more expansive our energy field can get, the more we're able to tap into these greater dimensions. And so that's why breath work, one of those most empowering things we can do, and powerful things, because the more we breathe, the more expansive we become, like a hot air balloon elevating into these greater dimensions, right? So they always say, start your morning grounded and expanded, because when you ground, you're really grounding the human into the opportunities that you can call into your physical life, your physical reality. And when you're expanding, you're really tapping into these unseen dimensions so that you can be guided by a higher source beyond yourself.
Well, and even when we're talking about this is different zodiacs with astrology. So I'm an Aquarius, so I'm known to be air.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking of all these ideas. I have great ideas and visions, but I'm not usually grounded. So it's the power of saging, like the rituals that I know even before coming on here, there's a ritual. And we don't always have to know every single answer.
Yeah.
Like before I do a podcast, I have a ritual. Before I do something, I have a ritual that taps me into that higher self. And it can even sound like I'm a portal for the universe to flow through for the highest good. So if you're showing up at a business meeting, or you're going to go meet a client, or you're nervous to do something, or you're doing hitting a physical goal, you don't have to do it alone.
No.
Call forward that energy, right? And
because as soon as you invite forward that energy, it depressurizes what you've put on your human, right? It's inviting, it's creating this pathway to this higher source so that energy can free flow through you. So if you're like, what would my higher self do? Then you are literally in that moment welcoming forward and becoming your higher self. The way you're speaking, the way you're holding yourself, everything starts to shift because you've now invited forward this higher reality within yourself.
Well, and that even can look like if you say you wanted to make a change, well, when you're in the action, just ask yourself, just take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what would my higher self do right now?
Yes.
Instead of, I'm just going to be in the moment, unaware, not intentional, just asking that. And it might be a different change, as though instead of sitting on the couch, you're going to go to a yoga class or you're going to do a meditation. It's what would your higher self do?
Absolutely.
Or if you're in a business meeting, what would your higher self do? And it can be those little shifts that can completely change. But when you look at if every single person started tapping into that higher consciousness, imagine what the world would look like.
I know.
Imagine what business would look like. And so for anybody out there listening, what do you think, like tell them a piece of advice of what you think would happen if that consciousness really was ignited?
Well, and here's the thing, Tennille, like we are multi-dimensional humans. And so when I tell you all these realms and dimensions are available to you, they are available to you to walk parallel with yourself in these different versions too, right? Like when we talk about exploring past lives and present lives and future lifetimes, we're really able to jump timelines to understand ourselves deeper. Like, where have I been? What are the wounds I have walked through in previous lifetimes? What's the karma influences or karmic influences I'm walking through in this present lifetime? And what does my future timelines look like? Like, we have the capacity and ability to tap into anything we want to see, anything we want to reveal. And it's just society that's taken that power away from us or made us become blind to it or unaware. It's really, I see our third eye, and so many people's third eye in this collective energy is still just sealed like asleep, right? Like it's not like open,
fogged
it's not
over like a mirror, like it's just like, there, but
right?
They can't tap into it.
So if we open the third eye, our ability to see the unseen realms and our ability to travel in and communicate with greater dimensions beyond ourselves, I really think that's how we start to co-elevate and step deeper into our power. That's how we start to unravel our potential. That's also how we start to heal, though. And healing's a huge part of expansion. Is we have to heal the parts of ourself that allowed our energy to seep out for all these lifetimes. We have to heal the karma that's holding us back, that's tying us down where we're trying to elevate in our lives, right? There's an invitation to everything we're struggling with right now in our life. There is something deeper there that's saying, hey, you're still attached here in some way. There's a karmic influence, there's a past life, there's a wound that needs to be healed. So this energy can start to actually accumulate inside of you and elevate you forward instead of just continuously leaking out from that fear-based energy, right?
And I've always believed in reincarnation
Yeah.
too. Like I always feel like we're souls, and that often people that are in your life or even in your business, they're maybe in a different form, but there may be a reason why they're there.
Absolutely.
And so even in the energy field, if they're gone, they're still with you in some way. But it is when I start to do meditations on going into past life regressions,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because the more I've done it, I see exactly where I was
Yeah.
and where I am now and why I went through those experiences, how it's my gift in today and what I'm supposed to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's just honestly, my power is helping other people by guiding them through my experiences.
Yeah.
And so it takes a look back into the past to see who
Well,
we were.
And
to get
Tania, like
there.
often the environments you're in will guide you. Like I know I was doing an underworld meditation on my walk the other day amongst the woods, and I found myself in a past life regression as a Viking with my husband. We were raising babies out in the woods. This has kept us in survival mode in the winter seasons. This is why every winter we go, we're buckling down. We're still living almost from that scarcity mindset that we lived in once. And so once we these environments are kind of inviting us into these reflective periods where it's like, where am I not free and why am I responding in the way that I am? Is there a cycle or a patterning that I can recognize to change and transform for my highest good? And a lot of the time awareness is enough. And I think that our human discredits it, right? Our ego wants like step by step. But a lot of the time when we can become aware of where this is coming from and why it's coming forward, then that awareness can shift us into a space of higher choice and higher frequency. Right?
Well, you actually helped me with this, but I'll share it. So I've done a lot of inner work. Obviously, that's something I really like to do is self-development. So I thought I was aware of most of my limiting beliefs, but ever since having my daughter, I feel like I had scarcity-based beliefs were coming up again, and I've worked so hard on being in alignment with abundance. And I ended up doing the underworld meditation.
Yep.
And what came forward was at one point, I probably was a single mom or I was in scarcity base.
Yep.
And then I started to look at my own life, and I grew up with blended parents. They always gave me everything I needed and wanted. But my mom always would say like she didn't have enough. My
Yep.
dad's beliefs were around that. So I think having my daughter ignited that
Triggered it.
single parent,
Yep.
like the scarcity base. So now I'm working on that. So it's almost like you hit a level and then there's always more work to do, but it is awareness. So now I'll be like, oh, I see where that belief's coming in. Time to shift it. Use a tool that we have to step back
allowing
into
our life
alignment.
though to invite us, right? And that's why they say we're always evolving, because life is always inviting us, triggering us, showing us where we still need to heal and set ourselves free. And so I don't think any of us are ever done, because we're constantly evolving and meeting ourselves in these new levels of awareness. And as long as we're just open to always being willing to shift and do the work and work on the wounds, I mean, I think that's where a lot of our power comes from, right?
It's growth, because you're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah.
Life is in different seasons. So it's all about really being able to do that inner work and capitalize on it. So a lot of time you're doing that inner work, you're doing the work behind the scenes to get rewarded in public for it later. But you have to do the inner work. You're not just going to get rewarded without doing the work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like even what you said, Tennille, with family and like soul families, I really have channeled through the last 10 years that we all sign up, we all sign a contract, we all come in with our soul family, and in some way, shape, or form, they're all going to show up. And some are going to be, the supporters in our life, and some are going to be the teachers, and some are going to be the leaders. And there's just these different parts of our soul family that show up and help guide us throughout our becoming. And, some of these relationships, we wonder, why do we have this relationship in my life? Like, how does this serve a purpose? But often the hardest relationships are the greatest teachers in our lives. They're what are really enabling us to step into our power and show us our potential.
The biggest lessons, right? And even in business, when I look at some of the most challenging things that we went through navigating with different people, it's the most challenging times where we grow the most.
Yeah.
It's the most uncomfortable, but those are the times you're going to look back and be grateful for at one point.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening and you're going through that time right now, just keep focusing on how can I stand in my inner light now? How can I bring my higher self forward now?
Yeah.
And it will start to elevate. You will start to elevate your life and business, because everything coincides. Everything is in alignment. So what do you notice, Taylor, when you're in good spiritual alignment, mental alignment, physical alignment? What do you notice is different in your own life?
Yeah, well, I call it the ebb and flow because we're always ebbing and flowing, right? Energy is always moving through us, and wherever we ebb, we flow, and wherever we flow, we begin to ebb again, and it's just this consistent flow of energy, and we just have to accept it. Like, there's times when it just feels deep, dark, and heavy, and I actually appreciate those times when life is challenging because I've learned through the 10 years that this is my time of really digging down so that my next opportunity is going to be very expansive. And I always find the harder it is, the more blessings will come on the other side of it. And so it's like if we can appreciate the darkness and lean into it and recognize there's awareness and there's gifts here. There's gifts for us to unlock and unravel. If we can really surrender to it, then our expansion is so much deeper, so much greater. And we know, what, I've done the work to get here. And I think we become more appreciative of that flow state when we've been in that ebb and we've allowed for it to come forward as well, right? And I always talk like a tree without big roots in the earth can only be so expansive with their branches, right? And I think that's us as spiritual beings. The deeper we can dive in our rooted system, in our beliefs, our foundations, in the souls of who we really are, the deeper we can explore, the more expansive we're going to become in this lifetime. And the more expansive we are, the more lives we can touch, the more potent our energy becomes, and the more mountains we're going to move in this lifetime, right? So I think it's really, as spiritual beings, it's our responsibility to do that inner work so that the expansion can be felt and experienced by ourselves, but also those that surround us.
Well, and like we said before, our energy is the catalyst. So if you can be in good energetic alignment, you will spill that energy to everyone else around you, which is a collective, is helping the entire world. So that's what you can do, is just start focusing on being a better version of yourself, doing the inner work so that you can ignite and elevate your life and elevate your business. But Taylor, again, thank you. I just love being in your energy because she has great energy and it always inspires me to step into my power. But again, how can everyone find you? If they want to work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, for sure. So my website's pretty popular place. So awakenmedium.com. I'm also just on Instagrams and Facebook, Awaken Medium, maybe, I think.
I'll put it all in underneath as well too. But again, it all starts with you. It all starts with just tapping into your energy. Notice, just ask yourself, where is my energy today? Is it at a scale of 1 to 10? Just tune into your energy and notice, where does your energy drop and where does your energy get ignited? So even when I'm around Taylor, my energy elevates. When I'm around other people that maybe aren't so positive and inspiring, my energy goes lower. How can I ignite that energy? How can I bring them up? Step into your power and be the catalyst for change that the world needs, but it all starts with you. So thanks for co-elevating with us, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for co-elevating with us today. If you found value in this, make sure you like and share it with your friends and family, and join our community by pressing subscribe. This is a space where we co-elevate. We'll inspire, motivate you, and push you to unleash your infinite potential and elevate your life and elevate your business with elevated results.